from Missouri. And I'm very clear that the shooting today at the Kansas City Super Bowl parade is what happens when cowards are in charge. Because reportedly, Mike Parsons, the governor of Missouri, who is a Republican, was seen running from the scene today in fear. That should remind you of another Missouri based lawmaker. Because just like Governor Parsons was running away from the violence he stoked, Josh Hawley ran away from the violence that he stoked on January the 6th. This is what happens when cowards run the show. This is what happens when you oversee, Governor Parsons, laws that are so terrible it puts you at 48 out of 50 on the Gifford scale. This is what happens when you ensure that the state of Missouri does not require a permit to carry or to purchase, does not require any restrictions on people who've been convicted of intimate partner violence, does not ban assault rifles, is currently trying to pass the fact that people can be able to carry a concealed weapon on public transportation and in houses of worship. This is what happens when you have no desire to change gun show loopholes. And a gun show is happening in Kansas City starting on February the 17th. This is what happens when you, a coward, are holding on so tightly, knees shaking to your supposed 2A rights that are deeply steeped in white supremacy and patriarchy because you want to make sure that you can use your guns to protect you from us. And when you stand your ground, there are no questions asked. This is what happens when taking money from the NRA and the entire gun lobby when you are running for office is not disqualifying. This is what happens when people have no courage. This is what happens when people have sold their souls at the altar of violence that America was built on. This is what happens when you care so little that you aren't even moved by children being murdered by gun violence every single day in the cities you represent and the schools in your district. This is what happens, such that we now have gun violence anniversaries that sit on top of gun violence anniversaries because this was the day of the mass shooting in Parkland. This is what happens when all you care about is yourself and not the people you claim to represent. This is what happens when you
This is what happens. Wow, did homegirl break it down or not? We got the great Ebony McMorris joining us this morning, the one and only Ebony McMorris. Ebony, what a tragic situation. And she just really broke it down. And let's just start by acknowledging that Lisa Lopez Galvin, a popular figure in Kansas City's Hispanic community and beyond, was identified as the victim, the one fatality so far from that deadly shooting. Unbelievable. This keeps happening, Ebony. At least 21 other people were injured, but this keeps happening. It occurred just as the parade was wrapping up.
Keeps happening. We're at the 48th massacre this year. It happened on Valentine's Day, a day that we should be focusing and talking about love and giving love, and this is what ends up breaking out. And Brittany there, who I love, she's just brilliant. When she was talking about the lax laws, in fact, Gifford's Law Center calls Missouri's laws appallingly weak. Appallingly weak. We're talking about no background checks, no ban on assault weapons, no restrictions on gun ownership for people who have been convicted of violent crimes. Firearms are not required to be locked up. Like it is like the wild, wild west.
Yeah. And it's not just Kansas City, it's many cities and jurisdictions around the country. And I like what one of our fantastic viewers, Power 96, writes that what happened to that lie that a good guy with a gun will stop a bad guy with a gun. 850 cops were present and not one of them stopped the shooter or shooters.
But we see that. We've seen this before, right? We just had an investigation out of Uvalde. And we saw what happened. The cops,
Oh,
the police not even going inside of the classroom while kids are getting
getting killed.
massacred.
Oh, man, that was horrible. You know,
Horrible.
yeah, and you know, we all know it happened, but when you just brought it up again, it was like bringing it up for the first time. It just brought some extra chills through me, sent extra chills through me, because kids, little babies, were being massacred, and we see the footage, cops outside the classroom door.
Just frozen, right? Just frozen. The sad thing is, I remember decades ago, a lot of us would say, wait till it happens to their kids. Wait till it happens to their communities. They won't be like that then. Oh, not so.
Not
Not
so,
so.
not
Because we
so.
have seen classrooms of kids, of white children, Black children, Hispanic children just being gunned down.
Gunned down.
And where
Unbelievable.
are we? We are back at the same place, because let me tell you something, and you can believe or not believe, but the love of money is the root of a lot of this evil.
Yeah, yeah.
And the
Yeah.
NRA has had their hands so tied, but in my mind, it is so covered with blood of
Oh
those who
gosh.
are dying because of these lax laws and people wanting to stay in power. It has even come literally to the front door of some of these politicians,
Yes,
and they
absolutely.
do nothing.
And I think, and I love the way you put it. You put it factually. You said the love of money. Some people get it twisted. They say money is the root of.
Mm-mm.
It's not money. It's the love
It's the love
of
of it, where you can
that
where you
coveting.
can know kids are lying dead, innocent kids. Let me tell you something. I went to, and I believe in carrying a gun, right? I went
Mhm.
to get licensed with my husband about 2 years ago, and so we went to the range, and we're shooting, and amazing trainer that we have, and I had never up close heard a, what is the gun? My brain, I'm having a senior moment. um
Was it
the
an automatic
rifle. Say it again.
AR-15?
Yes. So we're there shooting, got nines, all types of stuff lined up. This guy comes in with an AR. When he shot that rifle,
Mm.
that sound ricocheted through the room, and it was gut wrenching. And the first thing I thought of were kids who have been shot up, and what that did to their bodies, and what
Mm.
their classmates have seen and have to live through. After that man came in there, just happy that he was carrying this back on like a big bazooka gun. The guys that he was with, he said, "You want to shoot it? You want to try it?" They backed off. No lie, they were like,
Wow.
"Mm-mm, no." There, it was just chilling
Yeah,
to
and what's
have
the
that voice so strong.
rationale? What's the rationale to carry? Okay,
Why do you need
people are
that?
free to carry a weapon in a lot of places. What's the rationale
Why?
behind carrying such a weapon?
You don't need it. You don't
It is
need it.
unreal. And then these, Ebony, these championship celebrations. Look, let me just give you a few of them. June 2016, Cleveland Cavaliers win the NBA championship. Police reported a person was shot twice in the leg and received injuries that weren't life-threatening during a parade celebrating the Cavaliers. June 2019, the Toronto Raptors win the NBA championship. 4 people were shot and wounded during the rally for the Raptors. Police said dozens of others were injured. In Los Angeles, after the Dodgers won the 2020 World Series, 2 people were shot during that celebration. And remember, 2020 was the COVID pandemic. In
Yes.
2021, the Milwaukee Bucks won the NBA title, and 2 shootings during that parade, or right after that parade, left 2 people wounded. I mean, we can go on. The Denver Nuggets in 2022, there was a parade that took place after they won, and shooting happened at that parade. And not to mention the myriads of college sports championships that
Oh my
turned into
goodness. They
chaos.
tear the city up, and they talk about when we protest over voting rights and criminal justice laws, and the chaos that you see at these games is ridiculous. And as a journalist, Stacey, tell me what you think. Because when you look at those articles and you read what happened in these large crowds, do you see the word thug used a lot? When we look at the language that's used.
Yep.
But when it comes to our community, it's a totally different vernacular that's used.
Well, we say it all the time, right, Ebony? January 6th. If that were Black Lives Matters running into the Capitol, first of all, they would not have made it to the steps. They wouldn't have made it to the steps.
Thank you. They wouldn't have had protection. It would have been. Let me tell you something. When it's 10 Black folk walking down, it's like a quorum. It is like, what is going on? Like
what's going on?
There's no way. There's no way. Missouri is so corrupt. In 2021, and I don't know if Brittany mentioned this, they tried to pass the Second Amendment Preservation Act, which made federal gun regulations illegal statewide. Illegal. That's what they wanted. No regulations.
None. And you heard what else she said.
They struck it down,
but you heard what else she said. In 2 days, February 17th, what's going to happen? February 17th, she said that they're going to have this big gun show.
Yeah.
Now, I have looked this morning. I have not seen any cancellation of it. How could you have that 2 days or 3 days after this situation? How do you still have that in Kansas City?
The only way they feel threatened is if their position gets threatened. And so Americans everywhere, in whatever city that you are in, you must pay attention to things like this. That is why it is important that we vote. That is why it is important that we stay in the street. That is why it is important that we control the narrative of stories like this and expose people who literally don't want any type of regulation. Are we forgetting about a Dylan Roof? Are we forgetting about the grocery store that was shot up in New York where the 10 people died? I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, and let's not forget Kyle Rittenhouse. Listen, Ebony, so switching gears, there's several things, folks, we got to talk about this morning, but we're going to start. We've already started, but we got to go here next, I should say. Fani Willis, the district attorney in Georgia, Fulton County, is going to testify at a crucial hearing today. The judge has indicated that he sees at least some modicum of evidence that suggests he should remove her as prosecutor. The hearing is going to focus on her relationship with the special prosecutor in her office that she hired, who turns out to be her boyfriend.
Who's still married.
Who's still married, which is an issue on another level, right? Because we're talking about ethics here. And I understand how folks think today, even though the divorce is not final, they're splitting up or whatever. It's cool. That's, I'm not here to judge nobody, right? But here's the thing: you're in a position that screams that it has to be ethics all the way around, not just professionally, but personally, in your personal life. Because look,
this
even in our profession,
one of the most important cases,
yes,
in U.S. history. And when we saw that Black woman as a DA in this case, we were like, yes. For all the things that we have seen come out of Trump's mouth attacking Black folk, when we look at the exonerated case out of New York, when we see, like, it brought joy to us.
Yeah. You remember when he was in office, who did he regularly attack? The squad, right? And anybody Black, any Black woman especially. And I know he didn't necessarily, now that I say that, when I think about it, Ebony, what's interesting, I don't see him going so hard on Black men. Why is that? He goes hard on Black women and other people.
Because the reason why he probably doesn't do that is because the Republican Party has been trying to dangle a carrot in front of Black men's faces and then make us think that Black men are all falling for it, because I'm not believing a lot of the polls. Well, while we do understand that there are issues that Black men have with this administration, I'm not believing all the stories that I hear about this big bait and switch that is coming from Black men that are going to all of a sudden vote for Trump. I'm just not here for it. We've seen ad campaigns an ad campaign that Republican party, or it wasn't the party, I believe it was one of the PACs, that tried to use disinformation and create an ad that was actually fake, showing a Black man canvassing a neighborhood, talking to another Black man with "Make America Great Again." And if it wasn't for somebody looking very closely at the photo, you saw like six fingers. Stuff in the photo it was total deep fake, right?
Deep fake.
And so they're planting these stories. And so it would be better for him to try to kind of be like the Pied Piper for Black men. I'm not falling for it, and I don't think our Black men are falling for it. But for this case is one of the biggest, most crucial cases. And this is one of the cases that was really one of the more important ones.
Right, exactly. This is one that he could seriously see prison time.
But
it's a state, and it's a state charge, and that's what really makes it really interesting here, because one reason, Ebony, as you well know, that on the federal level, the president and presidents will, I can see Biden winning the election, and I can also see Biden pardoning Trump, right? Because it's a federal situation.
I've been thinking about that for some time.
But I can't see, like, so the president his reach does not extend to state. What I'm getting at is his reach does not extend to state level convictions. It's only federal. So that's just one of a myriad of reasons that makes the Georgia prosecution so crucial.
Yeah. Fani Willis is saying that one reason why she's not going to really excuse herself from this case is because she says that the relationship wasn't improper in a sworn affidavit. And Nathan Wade, who she appointed, he says that they had no personal relationship before the case or when he started as one of the prosecutors. So at some point, this relationship started. But the fact that you have Republicans that are going to be, you got to know, you have to know that as a Black woman, that is a DA on this case, they are going to dig all types of bones. And if they don't find any bones, they'll try to create some bones in your backyard. Even if it's something that really may not stick, they're going to try to throw enough doubt your way. And I just kind of felt like you served this up for them. You had to have known they would have been following you, trying to tap everything near you and watching everything. And then the fact that he filed for divorce, I believe, right after he was appointed in this case. And then you look at the experience, the non-experience that he's had. I mean, what happens is it begins to take up the space in the room. Well, we need to be, when she was laser focused on this case. So now we're not talking about the list, list of things that they have on Trump. Now
43 charges in Atlanta alone, in Fulton County alone.
You know what I'm saying? Like in total, this man has like 91 criminal charges against him. 4 different cases, 4 different criminal cases. And now this becomes the headline story. And you have to talk about it, because I think most of us, when we saw this, we were like, no.
Right, because you did hold out hope, because there is a lot of rhetoric, there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation. So you held out hope that, okay, that's probably something that they're trying to drudge up, or however you say that word.
And you went to a church and doubled down on the fact that
yes. It's incredible that we are even, like you said, talking about this, but we have to talk about it.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Because you did this to yourself. I'm sorry. You did it to yourself. When I saw that happen, I was like, oh, please, I hope nothing's going on with Judge Trunkin. Please, Trunkin in DC. Please, please, please let everything be
But you
okay.
know,
Please.
so David Youngblood notes that this was an ethical lapse, but should not stop the prosecution. This is not the argument, though. The argument is not about stopping the prosecution. Today's argument or hearing is about whether or not Fonnie Willis can lead that prosecution. And so there are repercussions if that judge removes her. The charges don't go away, at least not
No.
automatically. The charges doesn't go away, and nor
But
should
the whole
they.
team is I think the whole team gets replaced.
Yes, and so this goes back, Ebony, to what the Republicans in Georgia wanted in the first place. The Republicans, you remember, they tried to remove her from the beginning.
They did.
And you got Marjorie Taylor Greene wanting to investigate her and yelling. And anytime you can make Marjorie Taylor Greene look halfway right, then you're doing something all the way wrong.
Right. And they're really looking at whether she benefited from this relationship. They've already seen, the trips, trips that he paid for, a ticket for her, and for him. They were going out of the country together. It is just,
and it gets convoluted because, listen, I believe I said this yesterday. If I'm taking my girlfriend, I'm married, so if I'm taking my wife somewhere, I'm picking up the tab. But in this case,
it was even sloppy the way it was done. Like, come on. Right. Exactly. Some of us was like, it wasn't, and I don't know. There are a lot of jokes that come to mind, but I'm not, but there's no laughing matter. But I'm like,
no laughing matter.
I don't want nothing that makes me do that.
Right.
Couldn't have been that good.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, you remember Harlem Nights, she was his sunshine, right?
She called, she said, I'm not coming home. I'm not coming home. I don't want that. I don't want it. That's toxic.
There you go.
That's toxic.
Oh,
but
God.
and the thing is, you are giving their base red meat.
Yeah, without question, and we, and foolish of us to hold her to such high standard, right? Or to and such lofty. She's human, right? Foolish of us, but come on, like you said at the top, we were all excited.
No. She's a DA. No, that's a smart woman. I'm not going to take anything from her. No, nope. Can't do that one. Sorry. I want to, can't do it. No, you got to stand 10 toes down in this. And the thing is, what if you were the ones who were that was also working on this case? This is a huge high-profile case, one of the most significant cases in history. And now you aren't even able to do that because of this.
Right.
You wouldn't be saying that.
Yeah, let's just call it what it is, right? It's very selfish. Very selfish.
It was selfish, even though I don't believe that it should disqualify her. So I am going to say that.
Right.
But we know what we've been dealing with in each one of these cases, and they've been pressing for it. And regardless of whether it does or not, Republicans have been wanting to stall all of this. And we are in an election year. Their thing is, let's stall. Okay, whatever happens, let's stall.
Yep.
Because we're trying to figure out what we've not been in this situation before. What will the end look like?
Yeah. And before we move on, let me just, I'm going to throw this out there. Greer mentions, would Jack Smith get the same treatment as Fonnie Willis for an affair? Absolutely not.
No. In every story that we have, where there is a white counterpart, I guarantee you the treatment would not be the same.
Right.
No, we know that going in. We were taught that from a child, that we gotta walk a little straighter. We gotta do things 2 times better. You know that.
Yeah. Well, and before we move to the next topic, just a little programming note. Tomorrow, join us. We got Charlemagne the God joining us tomorrow morning. So join us tomorrow. But Ebony, as we move on, the head of the U.S. Marshal Service is sounding the alarm on a dramatic increase in the number of threats aimed at judges and prosecutors. He told lawmakers yesterday on Capitol Hill that the development constitutes a, quote, substantial risk to our democracy. He says, I'm deeply concerned with the alarming increase in threats against our judiciary and the violent nature of those threats. In the past 3 years, the number of threats against federal judges have more than doubled, as have threats against prosecutors and other court officials. And you mentioned Judge Chutkan. He also mentioned Judge Chutkan, mentioned the judges in New York and in the Trump case. This is out of hand. Political threats and political violence is at an all-time high in America, Ebony.
And why? When did we see this big increase? Who was in office? Donald,
the orange guy.
The orange guy. And it's horrible, because when we talk about, I was looking at some of the hearing, I watched some of it, and we're talking about our U.S. Marshals literally help with the transition of democracy, help to safeguard democracy. 3,000 federal judges, over 30,000 federal employees, including prosecutors, defense attorneys, witnesses, everything like that. And so they have had to move around resources. And what was said during the testimony is that it is almost draining, because they've had to move so many resources because of this because of this uptick. And they're trying to figure out what to do, how to handle this. We're talking about, I think they were said since no, actually, no, I'm sorry. Sheila Jackson Lee testified, was talking at the hearing. And she was saying that in Texas alone, that there was 522 judicial security threats since 2018, 29 assaults, and 68 bomb threats. That's just Texas.
Wow.
Right? And so there was a really good article several years ago, and it was talking about when we really begin to see an uptick in political violence. That really started in the 70s and 80s, but then we saw that kind of fall off. But the difference was, it was comparing what was the difference between the political violence we saw then and what we're seeing now. Then it was just about threats and warning. You saw people blowing up buildings. You saw people looting, starting fires and things like that. What you did not see is people dying at the rates that we are seeing them because of that. Like people losing their lives because of the threats that we are seeing. Let's not forget, because of the rhetoric that we saw come from the Republican Party, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Donald Trump, I mean, the whole get along gang, people are taking that, they are always feeding their base this red meat. And I need people to stop getting hooked off of that. Because what happens is now that whole January 6th crew that got locked up and turned around and said, Trump made me do it. Look where you are now. He is not coming to save you. And so you still have people now upset at the decisions that are happening, that now you have Judge Drunken needing extra security because of the threats that are coming her way. We saw Nancy Pelosi's husband.
And he's made fun of it. Donald Trump has made fun, and this was a Donald Trump supporter, an avowed MAGA person who committed this heinous crime, attempted murder, bashing the poor senior elderly man's head in, and Donald Trump making fun of it.
And he also talked about the director, Ronald Davis. He also talked about how social media plays a part in this. Because this is where we see, don't forget who owns Twitter, platform X, whatever you want to call it. I call it Twitter still. Right. What kind of rhetoric we see constantly? What kind of rhetoric is shadow banned? What kind of rhetoric gets the most traction? And even Elon Musk himself also race baiting in that. So the founder of this, we've seen, how many hearings have we had with social media tech execs coming on the Hill to testify, to say that they're not the reason why there's an uptick. You may not be the sole reason why, but you are creating a platform of hatred. It is like a breeding ground in many areas, and the oversight is not happening in this.
Yeah.
And so now we have our law enforcement officers, our U.S. Marshals, having to divert resources to protect our judges, our federal judges, at an all-time high because of the threats that's happening to them.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Well,
what's the DOJ going to do? You know, we want to see what is going to come out of this with the DOJ.
right.
The hearing was crazy because, you know, Republicans tried to derail it and talk about something else. They wanted to talk about.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ebony. You're 100% right.
They wanted to talk about how officers aren't protecting the J6 people that were arrested and in jail. Like, I was like, are you serious?
They call them
Congressman
hostages.
Andy Biggs was one of them, who was one of the main ones trafficking in lies, pushing the big lie that Trump really won the election. And he was one of the first ones really opening up the hearing, asking questions and talking about that the marshals had done a poor job enforcing newly enacted laws for those who were had been well, I think they're in DC correctional right now. They got their own wing. The J6
their own wing. I noticed that. Right? Isn't that something?
Own wing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want them around other black folk in there? What?
And they got their own wing, and let's not forget, they are ordering their food. They are saying, I don't want this, I want that. I don't want that, I want this. And they're getting it. This is what's going on with the with those who are locked up in DC from January 6th. This is what's going
on.
Can somebody in New York imagine going to Rikers Island and saying, listen, I want my spaghetti done this way with this type of meat.
I want preserved.
I make a special wonton soup for you. I mean, come on.
It's sad that is what we are seeing. And then you have these Republicans coming out trying to sound a fake alarm. And Biggs was one of the people who was even questioned as having helped to plan some of this, even though he denies it all day long. But part of it is not even just on the right, too, because we're seeing it on the left. Don't forget the attack on Judge Kavanaugh when the Dobbs decision got leaked early, and you had an attack on him because the attacker thought that Roe v. Wade, he was upset that Roe v. Wade was being overturned. So it's the left and the right, but studies have shown that most of it is coming from these far right extremist white supremacist groups. But I'm not going to say that's the only direction. It is coming from both sides. And so people are losing their lives because of this.
Yeah, it is unreal what's going on. Ebony, also what's unreal, well, 2 corrections officers were fired after a video and recorded inside the Hamilton Correctional Facility, a Florida state prison located in the Panhandle. It showed inmates being used for what they called a slapdown game, where the guards would with all their force smack down the inmates. Of course, the inmates could not retaliate, but what's striking about this is the Department of Corrections response to it. I mean, the guys, the officers have been fired, but their response was, we reacted, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit here, but we reacted because of an unauthorized video. They focused on the fact that there was contraband in there, an unauthorized video. Somebody filmed this instead of saying, hey, we got a major problem with corrections officers using inmates and abusing them in this form.
Look, I was reading one of the stories and some of the reporters that were covering it. They're like, can we get the name of the correctional officers? That hasn't been released.
Right.
What happened to the inmate that was recording the video? That hasn't been released. We know they're like, we can't release information because it's an open investigation. We know that if we lean in hard enough, that information can be released. But what got me when I looked this up, this is in Jasper. And what do we know about Jasper? My mind, anytime I hear Jasper, Florida, I think of James Byrd Jr., murdered in 1998, where 3 white men chained him to the back of their pickup truck and drug him for miles to the point where he was decapitated. That's the first, that might have been 1998. But even in doing further research, there have been several instances within the Hamilton Correction Institute. The racism is still alive there, even in policing, and people might want to move past it. But when I saw, oh, it's located in Jasper, Florida, I remember that story. And then in Florida, period, I think Florida State Prison is like the third largest, has the third largest amount of prisoners, third Republican territory. Follow the money trail.
Follow the money. Yep. And you know, Representative Diane Hart, who's a Democrat out of Tampa, had just visited when this last incident happened. She was there the same day, and her report back, she didn't know this had happened though, but her report back to the state representatives was, it was one of the worst visits she says I'd had in a very, very long time, without knowing that this had happened on this day, the last incident in which this filming was taking place. That speaks value. And you said something. You said people like, okay, you move past it. That's a big problem, right? We always saying let's just move past it. I think, and not to go into this at all, but you know, this is what Monique, when she sat down with Shannon Sharp, she was like, people just say move past it, get over it, and keep moving. But how do you keep moving without fully addressing the problem?
And that's reconciliation. People want people to forgive things. People don't know how to. I cannot reconcile something if you have not admitted what you did in this situation.
Right.
Reconcile is coming to an agreement on something. Reconciling is not when you try to keep pushing something under the rug and you think time brings reconciliation. Time doesn't bring reconciliation. You have to come and be honest. Before you sit at this table, you got to be honest about how you are. And in reconciling, you also have to figure out how you're going to rectify situations. That has not happened. Look, that area, period. Rodney Pearson, he was the town's first Black police chief. He was terminated in 2012. When you go back and look at stories of how hard it was to get him in there, and white folk dropping the N-word every minute, mad because they now had some Black city council members in it, and they were voting him in, and they were trying to say the only reason why he's going to be the police chief is because he's Black. Wait a minute. How many police chiefs have y'all had? Is the only reason why the other ones were white is because you're white? This man was terminated in 2012, and he said here in Jasper, our police department has a long history of violence towards Black folk. That was 2012.
Yeah,
it has not changed.
I was going to say, I had the opportunity to speak with him back then. And I remember him being, one of the things that struck me with the sheriff was that he was extremely candid. And I thought, when I was talking to him back, it must have been 2011. I thought, wow, this guy, you talk about brave, because he was outspoken in that job and his mission. Yeah. I mean, he was trying to bring in Black deputies as well. And every time he said he'd bring a candidate in, they would find something that wasn't there to keep him out. That's amazing. Amazing. So we're going to keep
seeing that. You're going to keep seeing those types of issues. You're talking about, you know, that correctional institution overcrowded. They're supposed to be offering mental health services to the patients. To the inmates. There was a report that came out a number of years ago that was talking about the mental condition of many of these people that were there because they were being neglected. Everything that they are pointing to on the website that they're, that they offer, they're not seeing it. And Black folk are overrepresented here. And don't forget, when we're talking about Florida, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, you might remember off the I think it starts with a D, but he was pushing so that felons would be able to vote once they have served their time. Right. And so once that went through, then Florida came back and said, well, wait a minute. That might have gone through. But now what we want you to do is pay back all your restitution. You got to pay all. I mean, there were so many fees added onto it that you're still back in the same boat. This is Florida. This is America.
This is America. This is what I always say. Speaking of mental health, and I think America, I think America, music buyers have a mental health struggle, because Kanye West's album, Vultures, won in collaboration with Ty Dolla $ign?
Tiger.
Number one on the Billboard charts.
And we survived. We survived through the cancellation. We're back number one.
Do you think the controversy helped you?
It wasn't about the controversy. It was about the ability to say how you felt out loud. And if I didn't have the various skill sets of music and clothing and the fan base, they would have been able to destroy me. But because we had all those skill sets, somehow I'm here inside of this universe, able to fight.
You can't be destroyed, it would appear.
Thank you. Love you. I love all the people that support it. And you know what I'm saying? We needed to have something that was Apple level. Where's the Apple level? It's just me and my bro Elon. That's it. You know what I'm saying?
Some of the streaming platforms removed.
And so we always talk about his mental health problem. I'm turning it the other way around. We got the problem, don't we? I mean, he says I can't be canceled. Well,
he in his right mind when he say that. People just need to stop. The people that had a problem are the people that keep running after this mess. As soon as he said, my bro Elon Musk.
Right.
Kanye has told you who he is. I don't care if you occasionally spit truth or say things that are correct. This is the same person who did an interview with Alex Jones and was like, I like Hitler. He said, I love Jews, but I also love Nazis. He said he sees good things about Hitler. That's like Trump talking about there were good people on both sides. But let's really, he's challenging the Holocaust. He's talking about Black folks in slavery, trying to figure out, well, why didn't somebody break free or whatever he said that was just so ignorant. Calling for DEFCON 3. He's so problematic. He's trying to run for president, then wanted Trump to be he wanted Trump to be his vice president or run on the same ticket or something.
Right.
Like White Lives Matter shirt. We have fallen in love. Americans have fallen in love with this culture where we just love where people just show up ignorantly sometimes.
Oh, God.
And as long as you just saying the first thing, it doesn't matter what comes, as long as you say it and put it out there, there's always someone who's entertained by that. But he is problematic. And I'm so glad. Remember a couple of years ago, Van Lathan came at him hard.
Yes.
On TMZ. And he was like, stop it.
Yep.
You are causing problems. He's like, I'm not going to let you do this. You have to understand in the culture what you represent and your words are damaging.
And he continues. And that's why
people follow after him.
Yeah, and that's why we even brought it up today, because I can't even wrap my head around how is his album, the whole how is it number one? The whole listening party a week ago, which he just went on another rant about this anti-Semitic rant. How is he successful doing that? How is that, Ebony?
How did Trump become president? We love this culture. Like people, there are people who love this, but you got to understand he has also a new base now.
Right.
He's aligned himself with people like Candace Owens. You know, even when he had the meeting with Donald Trump, he brought, what is that guy, Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yes.
Like, he hangs around problematic people. And right now, the voices that we hear that are coming so strong is coming from that audience. So best believe when you talk about how did it hit #1, why you think it hit #1? Why would it not hit #1?
Right.
People
Right.
like this rebel mentality because they think the very opposite are people who are bought. Or they think, oh, he's a genius. People envy that because people have been. Let me tell you something. There is a base in this country who wants to say what they want to say, especially to Black folk, because they felt like they've been muzzled so long. So once you get a leader that is standing up and saying what's really been in your heart for a long time, you're going to follow suit. And so you are empowering people to do that as well. And it is just, I don't think it's genius. No, I remember when he did the Dropout album.
I don't think it's genius
One
at
of his
all.
I love that. But when people really start spiraling like this, I don't even know how to diagnose it. I just don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to step back and say, no, I can't. Like, that's not it. I don't even admire that. If I don't admire it in extremists, I'm not going to admire it in my own people.
Exactly. 100%.
I'm just not. You telling people that you prefer your kids to know about Hanukkah more than Kwanzaa, or I mean, your choice in women is also problematic, but that's your business. That's not my business. That's your
Well, and then he
personal
gets bent out of shape when the TMZ reporter, if you will, ask him, does his wife have free will? But then you understand why she would ask a question like that. This is a woman that he said at the end of last year that he's decided she's not going to wear pants in 2024. And she goes pantless. She basically goes clothingless. And she walks around. And when you see her, she does look extremely robotic, extremely controlled. And it begs the questions like that. Perhaps the way she asked the question was not the way to ask it, but it still is a question that needed to be asked. Is she crying out for help? She looks like a person who's crying out for help.
Does she?
You don't think so?
Sometimes I think we be trying to sympathize. I don't know. I feel like they feed off each other's energy, right? You know, birds of a feather. I feel that. So there may be some brokenness in him that's feeding into the brokenness of her. But I'm not a therapist or anything like that. But we do know broken when we see broken. I don't know. I don't know. She looks fine to me. I don't know. She's getting benefits from it.
She's definitely.
So,
and this is
my tears only go but so far. They only drop like an eighth of an inch. Now we may get a different story later, like years from now, when it's something crazy. All this is like people are spilling all types of business nowadays.
Oh yeah.
But until I hear that, I'm keeping my tears here. This is my face, like y'all crazy.
This is one of the billions of reasons why we love Ebony McMorris, y'all.
Y'all trying to make me talk about this part, girl. I don't want to talk about it, but I'm just. Does she look happy? There was a rapper who said, I think it was on Drink Champs. He was like, y'all keep calling Kanye crazy. I just talked to Kanye. Kanye is in his right mind. He said, y'all keep falling for that okie doke if you want to.
Well, that's what I said at the top. Is the music buy in public the crazy ones?
I don't know. You lost me at White Lives Matter. And he's like, what? Because they do. Yeah, but you know what you're saying. You know what you're saying.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's not genius. And it's not being, here's why he often says, I'm a free thinker. I do not consider that being a free thinker. I really think that's a bondaged way of thinking.
Yes.
Because when you become a free thinker and you care about your people, you look like a Frederick Douglass. You look like a Booker T. Washington.
Right.
Whose views sometimes were always aligned, but they work together. because you are spitting things that keep people in bondage. That's not thinking free. When you spit stuff and you've not even educated yourself in that area, that's not free thinking.
Yeah. And needless to say, who's standing next to him in that picture? Oh gosh, them two.
You hanging with colonizers.
Him downstairs.
Him
Um,
Y'all. Stop, Stacey, stop.
Let's move on to our final topic this morning. The obsession, talk about bondage, the obsession that the Trump family has with the Obamas is just off the charts. Now comes this idiot, Donald Trump Jr., who says that, posts this thing that Michelle Obama looks like the Steelers linebacker, LaVon Kirkland. Talking about, I found this rare Michelle Obama rookie card, just a little Super Bowl nostalgia. I mean, they are so obsessed with the Obamas. Why, Ebony? Why is this obsession with the Obamas?
They are obsessed with black magic. They are obsessed with that. First of all, look, Obama won. There's always that white lash, right? That's part of it. And don't forget, Obama roasted Trump at the White House correspondence dinner one year.
Oh my gosh, didn't he?
It looked like at that point, if you go back and look at Trump's face, he was like, I'm about to get that man was seething. But let me just tell you something. He gonna mess around and find out with this one, because Michelle Obama is a real one. She's not trans. They keep pushing this lie. And the crazy thing is, if you go online on YouTube,
Joan Rivers actually
a
goes
lot
back
of their
to that, right?
supporters, they actually, I didn't really believe it at first. They actually think that she is not a woman.
Yeah, it goes
One
back
guy,
to Joan
they
Rivers
asked
way
why,
back
he
years
said,
ago.
yeah, he's like, I saw something in her clothes. You didn't see anything. You are woefully deceived, just like ignorant. And the whole family plays in like this playground of race baiting. They've been doing it since his father. When you look at the family legacy, Don Jr. is doing nothing but following in the footprints of those that came before him. Let's really be honest about this.
Yes.
In fact, first of all, he's playing checkers and Michelle Obama is playing chess. And this queen is about to really check him. Like, the bar is so low. And she said this, the bar is so low when it comes to Trump.
Right.
Like, is there even a bar? The bar is so low.
Right.
And so when we look at what his son is doing, first of all, she's all woman, but she is more man than he will ever be, with all of his
Well, I don't think she needs to say a word now. I think Ebony is being the perfect spokesperson for her.
He's failed just like his father. He's failed in business over and over and over again, but they are master manipulators. And so we'll see what happens in all these cases. And I was going back, just kind of looking like, how many businesses has he created and how many have failed? I really encourage people just to do some research. And you can also go and pull up, you can look up court records, but to see all these people that he has tricked with his business maneuvers, and then he has turned back to them and said, no, I'm not giving you your money. Yes, we know that was a failed concept, but you did it. Yeah. I mean, major leaders as well, foreign leaders as well. And so I think we've got to, remember at the end of The Wizard of Oz, like, I'm trying to separate The Wizard of Oz from The Wiz in my head, figure out what really happened, because I lean towards The Wiz. But at the end, you find out it is just an illusion.
Just an illusion. Yeah.
This little man behind this curtain. And I feel like, but they've been buying it the whole time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it is nothing. And so I think people just kind of have to pull back the curtain and become enlightened Do your own research, even with people who you think you side with. I do that as a journalist.
Right.
But it's sad that we have to do it over every little thing that you say. And the only reason why he is trafficking in this racist, misogynistic, petty, ignorant behavior is because he has nothing else.
Right. There it is.
What's he
Bottom
got?
line.
What does he have?
Bottom line. Wow.
He has no integrity. Your name is everything.
Yep. Yep. Well, there you have it. Well, y'all got to check Ebony out, AURN online, and also check her out on every Friday.
Every Friday. Yes, I go live on Instagram. You can go to AURN online, our profile page. We brought on some amazing guests and administrators holding feet to the fire, but also giving you the real on what we need to be paying attention to. And then also, what are the benefits that are available to you that people don't even know about, right? While many people are caught up in Kanye, they need to be figuring out what the Biden administration is doing when it comes to student loans so you can get some of that debt up off of you. You need to figure out what's coming out of housing so you can figure out what is Marsha Fudge doing in HUD that could benefit me. Because if this thing doesn't go down like some people want it to go down, you don't know what's going to be snatched off the table or rolled back.
And we see that anyway, right? They keep snatching stuff off the table, rolling it back. If you've not been paying attention, if you're still sleeping, well, keep on sleeping because it's gonna get worse.
It's happening. Oh, while you were sleeping, I said I'm gonna start a blog called "While You Were Sleeping."
Yeah, while you were sleeping. Yeah, you should. You should.
Let me do it for somebody. Oh, I'm about to do that now. But Stacey, thank you for having me on.
Oh man, it's always
I enjoy talking to you and cutting up because I can't do this on the other side as much. But
check that out. I noticed that she got the Reverend Al coming up there on the record with Ebony McMorris and the Reverend Al. Look at awesome stuff.
He's great. He's great. Thank you for the work that you are doing and just keeping the main thing.
Listen, we in this together, Ebony. We thank you so much. And everybody, again, check her out and check us out tomorrow. We got Charlamagne coming up tomorrow. So check us out. Same bad time, same bad channel. We'll see you then.